Hello, YouTube. Ralithar here, and today we're going to do the first episode of what I'm going to call Thirsty Thursdays. Thirsting as far as games that I wish happened, sequels that I wished happened, stuff like that. So, without further ado, let's get into it. What am I thirsting for today? An old RPG series. Any of you that played in the old Super Nintendo and PlayStation days might remember Breath of Fire. You used to have the Final Fantasy games, which were like this is the RPGs that people knew. Chrono Trigger, Squaresoft, all of that. But then Capcom was also in the game back then, making RPGs, and they had the Breath of Fire series. I wouldn't say that it was quite up to the Final Fantasy levels, but it was very close. It was like I wouldn't even call it like your B team. It was more like if Final Fantasy and Squaresoft were the A team and they were doing like S tier, A tier work, then Capcom and Breath of Fire was closer to like A minus, B plus. They were just like a half step below, but they were still very good. Now, the core conceit of the series, Breath of Fire, was that your main character named Ryu, always named Ryu, had like kind of like the whole Final Fantasy thing. They had the same characters, names that are like Ryu and Nina and stuff like that would show up in various games. Um, but the core conceit being the main character would turn into a dragon. Pretty cool idea. That basically he is his own Final Fantasy summon. You fight normally, and then you're just like, all right, we're just going to nuke these people, and then dragon. And so you usually had like a pretty diverse cast of characters that had their own special abilities. Like you might have like a were tiger, and his whole thing is you could just activate his essentially rage mode, and he would just start auto attacking and hitting really, really, really hard. But the longer that he was in that mode, the more turns it passed, the less control he had. So the greater the chance that he would start targeting your allies instead. So they had like a lot of fun ideas that they would play around with. They also had like a master and mentor system, which was like, hey, I'm gonna put these characters under this master and mentor, and they're gonna get this like skill growth, their attribute growth. This was your way of like customizing your like character roles and stuff. So that was like an interesting thing because you get like special abilities, you get their stats a certain way, and you can kind of tweak your party and have them kind of function the way that you want them to, even though they had like their own, I guess, unique class or unique brand to them. You could then make them do stuff that you wanted them to better. And then they got to the point to where they were also doing other stuff like you would fuse two characters together and like infuse elements into them. So like maybe you had like this monkey man, and then like you infuse the power of fire into him, and now he's like flaming red, and he's got like extra attack power, and he's got fire skills and stuff like that. So like they had some cool ideas. Was doing its own stuff that was off to the side, and like different games kind of did it differently. I think two was kind of more standardized as far as like a like not box standard, but like like more familiar RPG format. And then like three did some additional stuff, like the Dragon Gene system, if I recall correctly, to where like you would mix and match the genes from the dragon, like genetics, to create different versions of dragons that would do things for you. And they got into it. And then like Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, which was the fifth one, Dragon Quarter, and then five, four and five, but naming things, which was a really interesting take. That honestly, like they went in a very experimental direction. It's a very good game, but it went a little bit different from what the series was used to. So I understand like there's people divided on it because they're like, I want the dragon boy that I'm used to in Breath of Fire, and then they kind of delivered a slightly different thing, even though it was still Breath of Fire and still very good. But it's an old RPG series. Um, Unfortunately, it's hard to even find it to play anymore because we're talking about like 1996, 2002, stuff like that. The last serious title was made somewhere around 2002, I think. And so, like, even like there is a Steam version of Breath of Fire. I believe it's 4, but it's a bad port. So I hate when they port them and then they don't put the time into actually making them work right. So you've got like crashes and lost saves and stuff. So I don't really recommend it. You're probably better off looking for other ways to play things. Um, I would never advocate for using ROMs or anything like that. But I will say that if companies do not provide you a quality product that you can purchase to play a game in a reasonable price, then the market decides. So that's as far as I'll say on that. But Breath of Fire is definitely an old school RPG series I would like to see come back. It could use a new iteration. It hasn't had one in about 20 years. You could do so much with the system, do its own cool things. Who doesn't want to turn into a dragon and then frickin' wreck people? Uh, the Master Mentor system would scale really well into today's like design philosophies and everything. So that's Thirsty Thursdays. I want to see another Breath of Fire. Like I know Capcom's busy doing like Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. You know, obviously they've got other bigger titles that they're trying to make money with. But if they would remember that old RPG series and put out another Breath of Fire title, I'd play the crap out of it as long as it's not bad. And honestly, I think the only one that would be considered quote bad would be 6, which is like an Android mobile thing that never even came to the States. So they were pretty solid with it. Like I don't think that they ever made a bad one. They made like either kind of average or really good. But that's it for this day's Thirsty Thursdays. Breath of Fire, where are you? Bring my Dragon Boy back.